Can you imagine that the console that dominated your childhood, the one that kept you up countless nights, was born from a simple disagreement? Well, that's how the legend of PlayStation began. The unexpected origin. In the mid-80s, Nintendo was the undisputed king of the video game market. But technology was advancing rapidly. Nintendo needed something new, a CD-ROM drive for its Super Nintendo. That's where Sony comes in, an electronics giant with hidden ambitions. Ken Kutaragi, a brilliant and somewhat rebellious Sony engineer, was the mastermind behind the idea. Kutaragi, behind his boss's backs, was already experimenting with chips for consoles. The CD drive for Nintendo was his opportunity. Thus was born a collaboration that promised to revolutionize the world of gaming. An agreement between two Japanese titans. But the honeymoon didn't last long. The disagreement that changed everything. In 1991, during the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, Nintendo and Sony were going to present their joint console, the Nintendo PlayStation. But just before the presentation, Nintendo took a sharp turn. Without prior notice, Nintendo announced an agreement with Philips, Sony's arch-rival. The reason? Nintendo feared that Sony would control too much power over its hardware. The shock at Sony was enormous. Kutaragi and his team felt betrayed. But far from giving up, they saw an opportunity. If Nintendo didn't want them as partners, Sony would create its own console. A legend is born. With wounded morale but intact ambition, Sony decided to enter the console market. A market dominated by Nintendo and Sega. It was no easy task. Many within Sony doubted, why take a risk in such a volatile business? But Kutaragi was a visionary. He convinced Sony's management that the future of entertainment was in video games. And so, in 1994, the PlayStation was born. The PlayStation was not just a console. It was a statement of intent. A sleek design, impressive 3D graphics, and an innovative game library. The PlayStation bet on a more adult, more modern audience. And it worked. Challenges and triumphs. The road was not easy. The competition was fierce. Sega with its Sega Saturn and Nintendo with its Nintendo 64 fought for market dominance. But Sony knew how to play its cards. It bet on external developers, offering a more friendly development environment than its competitors. Games like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, and Resident Evil became flagship titles for the console. The PlayStation became a cultural phenomenon. Video games stopped being just for kids and became a massive form of entertainment. The myth of the secret chip. Here's where we get into murky territory. A myth that has circulated for years. Did the PlayStation have a secret chip developed by the United States military? The legend says that Sony collaborated with the Pentagon to develop a graphics chip capable of rendering high-quality 3D graphics. A chip so powerful that even the military used it for training simulations. The reality is more prosaic. The PlayStation used a graphics chip developed by Sony and a British company called LSI Logic. There is no credible evidence of the US military's involvement. But the myth persists. Why? Because it feeds the idea that the PlayStation was more than just a simple console. It was a powerful, almost magical machine, capable of incredible things. Evolution and domination. After the success of the PlayStation, came the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, and the PlayStation 5. Each console surpassing the previous one in sales and power. The PlayStation became synonymous with video games. A brand recognized worldwide. An empire built on the vision of a rebellious engineer and a strategic mistake by Nintendo. PlayStation today. Today, PlayStation is much more than a console. It is a complete entertainment platform. It offers games, movies, music, and online services. It competes with Microsoft and Nintendo for market dominance. The story of PlayStation is a story of innovation, ambition, and a little bit of luck. A story that shows that even the biggest failures can turn into opportunities. Because sometimes, behind a simple console, there is a story of betrayal, innovation, and an engineer who dared to challenge the giant. And now that you know the story behind PlayStation, what is your favorite game on the console? Leave us your comment and don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating stories of your favorite brands.